For this lesson, we're doing Module 6, Lesson 13. We're going to start with Part C of the first question, where we have 3 and 24 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Now, we're actually going to solve this answer as both a fraction and a decimal. If we look in the end, our final answer should be the same, though. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line so I can do my fraction over here. So I have 3 24 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Now, the first thing that should jump out to you is that I don't have a common denominator right now, so I will need to find one. So 3 and 24 hundredths I'm going to leave alone because I already has a denominator of 100. Plus, I'm going to look. I can turn 7 tenths into a denominator of 100. If I multiply my denominator, 10, times 10, I get to 100. So I'm going to take my numerator, which is 7, and multiply that by 10, which will get me to 70. So now I have 3 and 24 hundredths plus 70 hundredths. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these. So first thing I look at is I have a whole number of 3 over here. I don't have any whole number over here, so I'm just going to keep 3 there. I know my denominator is 100. This is review from earlier this year, so I'm not spending too much time on it. Now I need to add 24 plus 70. So if I need to on the side, I can. That's not a big deal. 0 plus 4 is 4. 7 plus 2 is 9. So it's 94. So my final answer is 3 and 94 hundredths. Now I'm going to circle that. When we do it on the other side, you're going to notice something interesting. So I'm going to start with, over here again, 3 and 24 hundredths plus 7 tenths. Again, all I've done is copied what I originally had. Now, I'll do it in a different color because we are using decimals on this one. Now I have 3 and 24 hundredths. So I'm going to put my decimal point. Anything that is greater than 1 is going to go on the left side of the decimal. So if I look over here, what do I have that's greater than 1? I just have a 3. So I have 3 point, and now I look, I have 24 hundredths, so I'm just going to write what I have over here. We worked on this a little bit in our last lesson. Plus 7 tenths. If I look at the number 7 tenths, I don't have anything in the ones or the tens or the hundredths place, so I'd put a 0 there. My decimal point. Now what comes right after the decimal point, we know. We have ones, we have our decimal point, and then we have tenths. And how many tenths do I have? I have 7. So I have 0.7. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two decimals. When I add decimals, we've talked about it earlier this year, it's very important I line up my decimal point. I'm going to do 3.24 plus 0.7. Now, if I just line up the digits, or if I put 0.7 on top, and I didn't line up my digits, it's not going to come out correctly. I'm going to draw my line to add. Now, if I look, I have this empty space over here after the 7. If there's nothing there, we've talked about in math all year long, if there's nothing there, we can always put a 0 to help ourselves add. So now I'm going to do the first part. We have 4 plus 0, which is 4. We have 2 plus 7, which is 9. Next comes my decimal point, and 3 plus 0 is 3. So we get 3.94, which we would read as 3 and 94 hundredths. If I look all the way over here, I have 3 and 94 hundredths. They are the same answer. So whether I solve it with fractions or whether I solve it with decimals, they are both equivalent. They are the same answer. Now, what we're really going to do with these is we're going to write the opposite of whatever was given to us. So in part B, we have 9 and 9 tenths. So I'm going to put my decimal point to start with. I have 9, so I'm going to put that in front of the decimal point because that's 9 ones, plus 9 tenths. So I'm going to come, what would be my tenths place, which is right after the decimal, and put a 9 there. So I have 9.9. Plus, I'm going to put my decimal point here now. If I have anything that's greater than 1, it's going to go to the left of the decimal. If I look, I have a 2, so I have 2 point, and I have 45 hundredths. So I just write what I have, 45 hundredths. Now I need to add these two numbers. Again, whenever I add decimals, it's very important I keep those those decimal points lined up. So we have 9.9, we have 2.45, and I'm adding these. Now again, above the 5 and next to the 9, I have this empty space. I can put a 0 there. That's fine just to fill it in. So 0 plus 5 is 5. 9 plus 4 is 13. 3 below. Like we would do any other time with addition, we carry or bring our 1 or regroup, however we want to say it, to the next place value. We have 9 plus 1, which is 10, plus 2 is 12. Now there's no other place value in here, so I would just write 12. So my final answer is 12.35. Now over here, I'm already given the decimals, and I'm going to turn these into fractions or mixed numbers. So because it is different, we'll change colors. So we have 6.62. So we would have 6 ones, and I don't know my denominator yet. If I look at it, this would be my tenths place. This would be my hundredths place. So it's important whatever I write for my denominator, it's the biggest place value I need. Now I know hundredths is actually the smallest, but it's as far as I need to read over. So I have tenths here and I have hundredths here, so my denominator is going to need to be hundredths. And now I just write what I have. That's to the right of the decimal point, which is 62. So 6.62 can be written as 6 and 62 hundredths. Plus, I have a 2 here. I'm going to write that. That's pretty easy because it's two ones. Draw my line again. Again, I look over at my place values I have. I have the tenths place and the hundredths place, so I need to put a hundredths, or excuse me, a 100 below because that's the farthest place value I'm reading to. Now my numerator is just whatever I have, which is 98. So I have 6 and 62 hundredths plus 2 and 98 hundredths. Now, we've worked on this again earlier this year. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to add my whole numbers. So I have 6 plus 2, which gives me 8. Keep my denominator of 100. Now we have 62 plus 98 hundredths. So I'm going to actually have to do that on the side because that's pretty big. Hard to do in our head. 2 plus 8 is 10, 0 below. Bring the 1 up top. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 9 is 16. So it gets us 160. So now we have 8 and 160 hundredths. So we still have an improper fraction, so we're going to need to use a number bond. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my denominator of 100 set up for me. I need to bring this 8 down also. That's one thing that this year that we've had a hard time with, and we tend to forget it with our answer. So I bring down that 8 also because I can't forget about it. So now I want to take out one whole, which would be 100 over 100. So I had 160, I used 100. What do I have left over? Which would be 60. So now I have, if I really want to think about this with addition signs, and this is really important that we get this. So we have 8 plus 1 plus 60 hundredths, which equals, the first thing I'm going to do is put together my whole number. So 8 plus 1, which is 9. And now plus whatever I have left over, 60 hundredths. Unfortunately, some of us this year we've been putting this for an answer on a question like this. We've been putting 1 and 60 hundredths. This 160 hundredths has been broken up into this over here, but this is not our answer because we've forgotten about this 8 over here. We can't forget about what we started with. So 6.62 plus 2.98 can be written as 9 and 60 hundredths. We could have also written as a decimal, but we're not worried about for this question. So really what we're doing in this lesson is, whatever it's given, in the first couple of questions, we're going to do both ways just to prove to ourselves that we get the same answer. But when we get on the back page, we're doing whatever the opposite is. If they're given to us as mixed numbers, we're going to solve with decimals. If it's given to us as a decimal, we're going to turn it into mixed numbers. Ultimately, when you solve this, when you get outside of this lesson, it's going to be whichever way works best for you. If you find that decimals work really well, then work on learning that way. If you find that mixed numbers really work well for you, you can also use that way.